Welcome to Live from the Heart podcast. My name is Anne-Claire Meret. I help beautiful beings feeling empowered to create their lives. I coach, teach, create programs, write books, among other things, and I love it. It took me years of healing and coaching, but I finally found a way back to my heart. Today I thrive and help people thrive too. Everything is happening faster and faster. I feel we are being supported in so many ways. I know we can thrive on a collective level. If you want to create from your heart, you're in the right place.
Welcome to another podcast of Live from the Heart. Don't be surprised that you hear my voice. I'm Christian and I'm the partner of Anne-Claire, and today we have some story time. Thank you so much for having me here, my love.
It's wonderful. It's so nice to do it this way. I love it. Well, thank you for being back on the podcast. If the people are curious about hearing a little bit more about you, we have another episode that we recently recorded together. And today we're going to talk about love.
Yes, let's do this. We're talking about how we got together, right? This is the topic of this podcast.
Yes, because we have a lot of questions. At least I have a lot of questions. You know how women are. And just women write me and ask me, how did you meet a man which is wonderful and conscious? And I don't seem to be able to find conscious guys around me, and or it doesn't last. And so they ask me a lot of questions. And I think it's nice to go back to our story and how we met so that we give a little bit more context on how we built our relationship.
Yeah, that's great. And it's also always a reoccurring question. How did we get together? Yeah. And it's a nice story to tell. So this is also a bit of a value for us to just retell the story.
Yeah. Do you want to start?
Yeah, I could start. So it was 2018, Bali, where we met. We had some eye contact already a couple of times before we then actually started talking to each other. We met at least one time on an ecstatic dance. We're exchanging eye contact. And then another time we met in a cafe, I remember. I was sitting there working and you were also working. Which cafe was it again?
Alchemy.
Alchemy, exactly. That was the name, Alchemy. And yeah, well, I remembered you really well from seeing, because we were crossing paths a couple of times. And then we were attending the same event. It was a cacao ceremony for full moon, I think, in a place called, what was it again? Akasha, exactly. And did some ecstatic dance, all the things that you would expect in Bali to see.
Totally.
Full on Bali Ubud style. And yeah, and this is where we got closer.
Yeah, I remember very clearly that every time I would see you, I was alone and you were alone, which I think it was interesting because I was very open to meet someone. I was ready to meet someone. And I remember seeing you at the ecstatic dance, but also in the line of the ecstatic dance, like being close to you in the waiting line at Yoga Barn for the ecstatic dance, which is always very long. So I had time to see you, look at you, thinking, oh, this guy is alone. Is he traveling alone? And then making up stories about you, because somehow I thought you would come from Southern Europe, like maybe Spanish or something, and not at all. You're German.
Yeah.
I just made a story about you in my head before we talked.
A bit more exotic story than a guy from Germany.
I'm totally fine that you're from Germany. But I remember not talking to you the first time, not talking to you the second time, and then thinking, if I meet you one more time, I'm going to come and talk to you, which is what happened at the Akasha evening.
Well, I think we have to refine the story a bit, how we actually started talking to each other, because I had the feeling that we were both doing our part. But before that, I wanted to mention something, is that I also remember you standing in the line in front of Yoga Barn for the ecstatic dance. And what struck me was that you were writing in a college blog. while waiting there. And I was curious. I was like, what is she writing there? I didn't
Maybe I
see
was
anyone
writing my
else
list.
writing there. Yeah, true. You were probably writing your list of 74 items that I need to fulfill in order to be your partner.
So a little bit of context. You were in a sabbatical. You were traveling by
Yeah, exactly.
yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, the actual story is that I'm from Germany. I was working in a corporate company and I took some time off. I went on a sabbatical for 3 months and went traveling in Southeast Asia. I went to Thailand. I went to Thailand and to Bali and to Thailand. Yeah, I spent 3 months in Thailand and Bali during this time. And Ubud one was one stop for me where I actually stayed most of the time during this sabbatical.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Well,
we actually met the last 2 days of my stay in during Bali.
yeah. So that was the very end of your stay in Bali, and I was a digital nomad, and I was staying in Bali for months. I think that year I spent 4 months, except for a visa run where I went out and then came back in the country. And I was staying a few more weeks before going back to Europe. So we spent together 2 nights, and then you had to leave. And I thought I would see you again soon because we discussed about, okay, let's see, maybe let's meet in Europe, and then you went to which one, which island was it?
Koh Lanta.
Koh Lanta. That's it.
I
Beautiful island.
first went to Chiang Mai and to the hills, and then I went to Koh Lanta.
Yeah, and then when it was time to go back to Europe, you told me that you were not ready for a relationship.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's maybe quickly refine the story how we then actually got in touch during the night of the ecstatic dance.
Okay,
I
go ahead.
remember that we were both standing again in a line. I think it was standing in a line for the wardrobe, right? We could give up our jacket or something, or at a bar, or what was it? Getting a drink. I'm not sure. We were somewhere standing in
At a
line.
bar. At a
Yeah,
bar. Yeah.
yeah. And you were approaching me. That's what I
Yes.
remember. You were approaching me, and then I was approaching you and saying hello and how are you doing? Something like this. I don't know exactly what kind of words I used. But this is how we met. And then this was also the night when I lost my shoes, my flip flops, and we had to drive without flip flops, without shoes on a scooter through the middle of the night, through a
Like
strong, heavy
Cinderella story.
rain. Yeah.
It was very
And yeah,
romantic. It was beautiful.
yeah, that's a great story. And there's actually some really interesting synchronicities that we will also talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go back to the point that you just mentioned that I was not ready.
And I was
Yeah.
surprised because I called you to the universe. I had my 75 item list and I bought a red dress, and I was open up. I opened myself to creating a beautiful relationship with a good man that I was ready to find. And when I found you, you were almost a perfect fit, like 73 out of 75. And
I
I
thought it
thought
is
it was,
74.
no, you were not self-employed. And uh,
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I remember. I remember. Yeah. So how did it come that you even created like a list? What was the idea behind that?
I think it's Oprah. Years ago, Oprah said something like, "Are you going? How are you going to find what you're looking for if you don't know what you're looking for?"
Mm,
And
okay.
it made so much sense. And then with coaching and learning so much about how you visualize what you want, and you be more precise about what you want to experience, then you have more chance to manifest it in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's great. Yeah. So yeah, we met. We spent 2 nights together in Ubud. Then unfortunately, I had to leave. And then I was in Koh Lanta a couple of weeks later, and then we were still in touch. Right, we had frequent daily exchange via
Messenger.
phone calls, I think, Messenger, and we even had some calls, I think. Um, and I have to say, I was just recently coming out of a relationship. We met end of August, and I was in a relationship until end of, I don't know, beginning of July, mid of July, something like this. I broke up with my back then girlfriend in Kupangan. She was at this moment also traveling, and we met in Kupangan, and then we decided we actually break up. So it was quite fresh and was still transitioning. This relationship didn't feel like, okay, we are just, it felt like, oh, there's too much tension still in this relationship. There was some, not unclarity. It was really clear that we broke up, that we are not together anymore. It was more about, no, maybe there are some contents that will arise that we have to discuss, things like this. They had to do a transition. And also, I used to live together with her in Berlin. So we still had all our stuff together. So there was a lot of things that to completely feel like being transitioned from this relationship, it needed some more time. And it was really, really clear for me. That was my gut feeling. Like, it's not the right time yet. If I would do it now, this would not work out properly, would not have the peace that we need for our beautiful relationship as a foundation. That was so strong, this gut feeling, that I couldn't ignore it.
Yeah,
It
I
was so
remember.
clear. Yeah.
Yeah. And on my side, I didn't fully understand what you were going through because I remember I was upset. I was pretty upset. I was not understanding why. I acknowledge that it was more authentic to say that you were not ready, and I appreciated that. But because I thought you were the one I called to the universe, I didn't understand why why it was not happening. Like it was a bit of a misunderstanding. Like, then how does manifestation work? And then I remember clearly going to school to Belgium, to l'école de la présence thérapeutique, which I don't know, awareness presence school. And I remember learning so much there about being autonomous and being depending, and what's healthy depending on someone. How do you healthily relate to another person?
Like a healthy codependency. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was great for me to go to that school and put some more awareness on my behavior and understanding more about love. And I was also at that time inquiring the topic of love because I wanted to write a book about love. And it was actually great to live this experience because it opened up to something else later, which I had no idea. Because you didn't ask me to wait for you. And although I would have liked that, because then I would have had a chance with you, we just then stopped talking for a while and just each of us continuing with their lives
Yeah.
apart. And then I went to Thailand in January, so later. And yeah, I went to Thailand first alone, and then I went again. I went to the retreat in North in Pai. This is where I met Matthew, and Matthew was in an open relationship, and I started to have a relationship with him, which has never been really something that I was interested to. I was curious about it, but I didn't think I would do it, and it was super enlightening for me because I had an image of open relationships where I thought it was something light, that people were just, like a fling or something, not committed and not respecting necessarily each other. And I understood that it's not the case, that it takes actually a lot of strength and a lot of depth to co-create beautiful open relationships. And then I started to date Jeremy. And then I was in Thailand, South Thailand, in Koh Phangan. And then you noticed. No, I came back to Europe. I made a few stories and posts about my travel. And then I came back to Europe and you wrote me because you noticed I posted something on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. And even before that, I remember um, still tracking you, observing you online, what you were posting, and things like this. And then at some point, you were posting, I think, a video where you were reading something from a book or something. I don't know. You were
I know
reading
what it
something, I
was.
think.
It was a poem from Aruna Lipchitz and it was about love. but you didn't know that
Ah,
because it was in
no, I didn't
French.
understand it. No, I was not aware of that. And I was watching the video. I was like, something was sparking again, like what we had already in Bali. So I got a bit more like, I felt like, oh, maybe it's now time again. I think I'm open. I think it could work. And then this idea was flourishing more and more inside of me. And then you were posting the story on Instagram where I recognized the place that you were staying in Kupangan. And first I was ignoring it. And a few hours later on that day, I think I was like, oh, let's check it out again. And then I was checking the story and I was checking it with some photos on my phone that I had from a place where I stayed in Kupangan. It's like, oh, this is the same place. This is the same place where you're staying. And it was the same place that I was staying and broke up with my ex-girlfriend when I was in Kupangan at the beginning of my sabbatical.
And this is amazing because for the people who have never been to Kupangan, it's a very touristy island where there are a lot of little houses like this one, like a lot
Yeah.
of them in the whole
Yeah.
island. Cheap housing close to the beach, a little bungalow, and it's the exact same house that we both stayed.
Yeah, exactly. And even more interesting it is that you have been right before I was there with my ex-girlfriend. You have been in this
Yes.
bungalow. So
Yeah.
you moved out of this bungalow. It was probably almost like,
A few
not
months
parallel.
before.
It was maybe a few months or a few weeks before, maybe even just a few weeks. I'm not
Months,
sure.
I think it was early January,
Yeah. Okay.
February
Yeah.
2018. And then you came like
Oh
June,
yeah.
July.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Then it was a few months. Yeah.
So we have a theory about that is that I visited this bungalow and I put my energy in there somehow. And then you visited it with your girlfriend and you broke up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. This is where we took splitted paths. Yeah, where we broke up. It's so interesting, and this is only something that we realized months later. I
Yeah,
think it was, when was it? Like end of the year? Was it November or
probably.
December? I think so. And then we slowly got in touch again,
Yeah.
and then we decided to meet.
Yeah. And then I told you that I was dating some other guys and I asked you if you were okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. And back then, I was actually already going more into the topic of different kind of relationships and creating your own ideas of a relationship. So I was listening to podcasts of people who are in an open or poly relationship, or who had a different understanding of being in a relationship. So this was already on my mind of redefining what it actually means for me to be in a relationship.
Yeah, it was perfect timing. What is amazing, I find in our story, is that life made it happen in a certain way, which is not what we would have planned. Like, I would not have planned to meet you and then not be with you and then date someone else and then creating the relationship that we created on another basis. Because
Yeah,
then when we started to date for real, then we had to ask ourselves a lot of questions because when you are in an open relationship, you have to inquire everybody's needs and wants and what everybody needs to feel seen and heard and respected and loved.
yeah,
And before all of that, I was taking all of those questions as something that should just be obvious
yeah,
instead of asking.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There were a lot of assumptions of relation of how a relationship should look like that were more unconscious and conscious, at least for me. And being in, or then getting into the relationship with you was then really an exercise of reflecting, okay, what kind of relationship do I actually want to have, and what kind of relationship do we want to create together? What are our commitments, and so on. So it was a really reflective process, and also a triggering one, because I mean, being in an open relationship or a poly relationship, it will most likely trigger some old wounds inside of us. And then it's important that you don't let it out too much on the other person. It can't be completely avoided, I would say, but it should also be not become toxic. It should become like a reflection that becomes healthy at the end.
Yeah. Well, we inquired a lot and we opened up a lot, and we had to uncover a lot of subjects from the very beginning. And there are some things which have helped us because we read some books together and we went through all the exercises from the very beginning of the relationship. And that's been super helpful for us. And there's one book in particular, it's called Conscious Loving. And this one we've listened together and we've done all the tools. We've used all the tools, and it's been awesome for us.
Yeah. I think there were like 3 books that were really helpful for us. One that I can really recommend everyone is Conscious Loving. Another one that I can also really recommend everyone is The Mastery of Love. You remember?
Yeah.
From Don Miguel Ruiz. We were also reading this one. And the other one was more around poly relationships, but it was actually really, really helpful in this context of a relationship that we were in, which was more than 2, right?
That's the best one. More than 2. Yeah.
Yeah. For poly relationship, it's for sure the best one, but it is also a hard one. It's not so easy to read. You get triggered for sure.
Yeah. But that's a really cool one. If you can listen to it, I think it's also helpful for anyone, not only for people who entering open relationships. It's also interesting if you just want to have an open-minded relationship where you actually decide to just have open questions from the beginning and not let anything to be hidden.
Yeah, I remember they also had an exercise in it, which was around what kind of agreements do you have with your partner. Yeah,
so
this was also really helpful. Yeah,
that led us to create our own agreements and what makes us feel good in the relationship, inquiring our values and our visions for the future, and then deciding on, okay, so what are our rules, agreements within our relationships, and nothing that is just implicit, but explicitly, what do we both need and want? And that made us create a very mature relationship from the beginning. And I think that's why it's successful today.
It was a good practice at the beginning to build this proper foundation. And also something to mention is, I would say you might experience some lack of safety in an open relationship, which stems from old wounds that just get triggered inside of you. So we had to build a relationship on this ground. And then also we had to build a relationship on the ground of being so far apart and not seeing each other every time. It was oftentimes we had like a month that we haven't seen each other, and then we were meeting for 2 or 3 weeks. And then again, 1 month we haven't seen each other. So you could think, or you could see like, oh, there's a lot of potential for instability, but because we had the tools back then, we had the books, this was really, really helpful for us to still have a really stable foundation for our relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Solid ground.
Yeah.
So this is how we met and how the relationship started, and how it's going is that with COVID, I stopped traveling and I ended up at your place where you invited me to spend the lockdown, and then I never left. I just stayed for a year and a half in Germany, and then you quit your job and you've decided also to be able to travel freely, and we decided to go to Costa Rica.
Yeah, exactly. Now we are in Costa Rica, and soon we are going to Bali together.
Yes, it's been a wish for us to go back to where we met for a while, and traveling was not so easy because of what happened, and now we're ready to continue our journey, and we feel that the island is calling us back to continue our beautiful evolution and transformation.
Yeah, it's a new adventure awaiting us.
It is. So this was the story of how we met. We hope you liked it. We also enjoy sharing the tools that we've been learning together, and that helped us so much to create this beautiful, loving, and very supportive and empowering relationship that we have. And we're very grateful for everything that we've created. And we really love to give back and share what we've learned so that as many people as possible can experience what it feels to be supported every day and loved and cherished and feel powerful within the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what empowered relationships is about. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all our experience and the knowledge that we got from books or through trainings or through experiences.
Yeah. It also, so Empowered Relationships is our program that we created in 2022. It's a program that takes you through 5 modules to help you figuring out who you truly are with your wounds and with your history and how you can make peace with it and go back to a state of presence and figure out what you actually want and own it and be responsible to create it. And it's for the brave among us that wants to create very beautiful, conscious relationships. And we've had already a few hundred people participating in Empowered Relationships, and they absolutely loved it. Some of them are single and they're looking for love, and some of the participants, they are doing it within their couple. And some people are already in a relationship and it's not going well, so they want to start fresh, but sometimes they're doing it alone. But because they change their way of being in the relationship, then the relationship can evolve.
Yeah.
And if you want to do it, we are offering for this beautiful month of February, because this is the month of love, but really every day is the month of love. It's the day of love. We have a promotion, and the price is 119 euros instead of 169 euros until February 22 with the code LOVE, LOVE. Simply.
Really simple.
Yeah. So please join us. You're going to find inside of Empowered Relationships, you're going to find a lot of exercises, meditation, EFT, breath work, journaling, and then in the end, you will be able to write your own agreements about what you really want out of a relationship.
Yeah, and that's a really important one because there are so many agreements that we just unconsciously adapted to. And maybe these are not our agreements. Maybe this is not how we can actually thrive as a person in relationship. And this is what the program is about. It's about supporting each other, thriving together, being empowered.
Yeah. We need more of that in the world. So please reach out to us if you have any questions, and we're looking forward to hear about your love stories coming up. And just also let us know if things are changing for you, and you can just reach out to us or comment under the post on social media about this episode. We would love to connect.
Thank you very much for listening and having me here, my love. And sharing this story and sharing this life together. I love you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for your presence. If you've enjoyed this episode, share it, like it, save it. You can follow me and connect with me via social media and my website, simply with my name, Anne-Claire Méret. See you soon with more content from the heart.